I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm feeling pretty good. So I feel like this is gonna be a good video. I feel like we're gonna have fun. Usually wrap-ups stress me the heck out, but for this one, I feel like we've just got a good thing going. Wait, should I show you the overview? Look at them, they're stunning. Look at the tabs. Can you tell that there are 5 stars here and 4 stars and even 4.5 stars? I also found 2 new favorite books, and there's just like a really nice mixture of different genres. We've got horror, we've got thrillers, we've got romance, we've got poetry, middle grade, young adult. I am really excited to talk to you guys about these books, so why don't we just go ahead and start. The first book that I read to start off my month was Gallant by V.E. Schwab. This is actually my March Patreon buddy read, so I have this exclusive reading vlog for this. I also did a live show for this where I discussed all of my emotions and my thoughts and opinions, which there were a lot. If you've been here for a while, you know that I'm a big fan of V.E. Schwab. You know that some of her books are my absolute favorite. We've got Addie LaRue, of course, and we've got Vicious as well. So when I picked up Gallant, you best believe my expectations were pretty high, but this ended up being a 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is still a really good rating, but I was definitely expecting at least a 4-star read. This was a very atmospheric and very eerie read, and even though it's marketed as this young adult novel, it read more like a middle grade. It just felt very juvenile, and I feel like the characters weren't fleshed out enough for me to care about them. I just never really connected to the story and the characters, which took away a little bit from my enjoyment of reading this book. One of the things that I really love about this book is the drawings and paintings that we have throughout the story, which helps build the narrative, of course. Like, each painting has a meaning, and it's a really beautiful addition to the story, and it makes you feel a lot more into the story, but you know, beauty only goes so far. The story itself wasn't very captivating. We're following this girl called Olivia. I need to take a moment to appreciate myself from the past because she took notes, and I love her. I love past me for making my job easier. So if you're wondering what this book is about, past me has got you. In this book, we're following our main character who's called Olivia Pryor, and she's currently living in this school that's basically for orphans and unwanted girls. She lost her dad and she doesn't know where her mom is, so she's kind of been alone for most of her life until she receives a mysterious letter from her uncle. And this uncle is calling her back home, so she decides to go there, but things are not what they seem, and there's definitely something sinister going on. She doesn't exactly know what it is, and it's her job to find out what's going on. I mean, yeah, it sounds really interesting, but I feel like I did a better job at describing what this book is about than V.E. Schwab did at writing it. Next up, we have a book. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, this is a book. As you can see from the smile on my face, this is one of my new favorite books. This was a 5 out of 5 stars. This was a 10 out of 5 stars if possible. And this book kind of makes me want to join the Mariana Zapata cult just because it was so good. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry to be that person. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. I'm really not sorry, because this book is Kulti by Mariana Zapata. I basically read this in like 2 days. You know, when there's a book that I can't put down and that I risk losing sleep just to read more pages, you know it's going to be good. Like, this has only happened to me with Emily Henry books, Mariana Zapata books, and somebody else books. I can't remember right now, but Mariana Zapata just has me on a chokehold, and I'm just asking for more at this point. I'm not even trying to escape. I'm just like, yeah, this is my reality now, and I love it. We've got strangers to enemies to rivals to acquaintances to hesitant friendship to best friends to... The point is, we've got so much in this book. Just thinking about it has me squealing, giggling, crying. It's making me orbit around the sun. This just Thinking about this book makes me so happy, and it boosts my serotonin levels to places I didn't even know existed. So in this book, hi, Kulti, we are following Sal Casillas, and she is a soccer player, and she okay, I actually don't want to tell you that much about it, because if you're like me, and you should be like me, you like going into books without knowing too much, because I feel like sometimes synopses, what is the plural of synopsis? Synopses? Anyways, I feel like a lot of times the summaries of books, like the ones that are in the back, I feel like they do a really good job at spoiling some of the best moments of the book. So I'm just gonna leave you with, this has soccer. Obviously, as you can see by the cover, we've got really sizzling romance. We've got Sal Casillas, who is an amazing main character. Like, she is so fiery and she's so confident, but also she has her down moments, but she's not afraid to explore that. And like, she's just such a wonderful main character to read from. And the romance that she has, like Sal and Kulti is the love interest. I think it's time to manifest a Kulti for myself. I am a fan of soccer. Like, I don't watch it religiously, but I did play soccer when I was in high school, and it was a good time. I had a lot of fun, as you can see. And as you can see by the tabs, I also had a really good time reading. It was just like, yeah. Okay, this next book is very special to me. And even though it's not a 5-star, it comes pretty close, and it is a new favorite book. I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars, and I just want to take a second to thank Josie, who sent this to me. She literally single-handedly changed my life through this book. Just looking at it, I get so happy. This book is Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke. Do not underestimate the power of this book by its size. It's literally the tiniest book I own and will probably ever own. This has 84 pages, including translator notes and further reading. And there's also an introduction. Stop. So the actual book is this. This is the introduction. But just take a look at how many tabs I have. Take a look at how much I annotated of this. I feel like there is magic in these pages. Every single page has something annotated, because I just found so much strength. I just found so many things to learn through Rilke, and the way that he writes about them, it feels like he's speaking directly to me. So if you don't know what Letters to a Young Poet is, this is actually a nonfiction book, and it's a collection of letters that Rilke wrote to a student. The student reached out to Rilke, and he was like, hey, listen, I'm kind of struggling, and I know that you graduated from my college, so I was just wondering if you had some advice for me. And so ensues this really beautiful friendship between these two men, and the way that Rilke just speaks about life and art and pain, and how we can use this pain and transform it into something positive. Like, just the way, I don't know how to explain what this book did to me. I'm just gonna read something, because I feel like Rilke can speak about how good this book is better than I ever could. You must think that something is happening to you, that life has not forgotten you, that it holds you in its hand. It will not let you fall. Why should you want to exclude from your life all unsettling, all pain, all depression of spirit, when you don't know what work it is these states are performing within you? Come on, you know what? I think that's enough said. I think I'm gonna drop the mic. One word to describe Rilke: life-changing. I even have this posted at the top that says, read this when you're sad, because I just know that I'm going to be picking this book up to read whenever I need a reminder that life, despite its lows and despite how hard it can be sometimes, life is beautiful. And Rilke reminded me of that. And I think that's just priceless. The next book that I read was The Hacienda by Isabella, and I was actually considering leaving this until October, because it just feels like the perfect Halloween spooky season type of book. But I was so excited to pick this up, I decided to just pretend it's Halloween, pretend it's spooky season. I picked this book up and I absolutely adored it. The writing, the setting, it was so atmospheric. Like, I know I mentioned Gallant as being atmospheric, but this is the definition of atmospheric. This is the standard. This is a historical thriller, horror, mystery fiction, and we're following this woman who marries this rich man in order to escape from her family. Escape is a strong word, but she just kind of wanted to make a better life for herself. So she marries this rich man in order to support her family, and she moves into this new home, the hacienda. But the thing is, this house is not like any other. It feels like this house has its own soul, and it's angry. This house is very angry. This house feels like it's taking revenge on the women that are living inside of this house. So our main character, she's kind of like freaking out. She doesn't know if she's going insane. She doesn't know if it's the husband that's doing this and just blaming it on the house. Like, there are so many things that you're not really sure about. You don't know if you can rely on this narrator. You don't know if what she's seeing is actually reality, or if she's just absolutely lost her mind. And it's that not knowing that makes this book so interesting and so difficult to put down. Like, there comes a point where I just couldn't stop reading because the mixture of the beautiful, lyrical, eerie writing mixed in with the setting and the characters and the events that were going on. It was just a perfect blend, and it made for a really fantastic read. It is also very reminiscent of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson and Rebecca by this author. I always have a hard time pronouncing her name, Daphne du Maurier. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Rebecca, it's not what you think. I won't hesitate, bitch. So if you're interested, look it up, you will not regret it. Then I read a horror manga because, of course, after reading such an eerie book, I was like, okay, I need more horror in my life. So I, of course, I had to pick up a Junji Ito horror manga. This is Lovesickness. This is Lovesickness, and I did mention this in my vlog, but I will repeat myself because I know that not all of you watch my vlogs. Uncultured. For the people that say that this is Junji Ito's best work, I feel like they haven't read Deserter or Junji Ito's version of Frankenstein, because those two are like leagues above Lovesickness. That's not to say that I didn't love Lovesickness. There are some panels that left me gasping because I loved them so much. I feel like Ito is definitely not afraid to explore gore. He's definitely not pulling his punches anytime. It's not really a collection of short stories because we do have like plot lines that are divided into short stories. So like the first 5 chapters follow one same plot line, which is of this man, this Jungkook of horror manga, according to my friend Vanny. Yeah, there's this one panel where he's like wearing black clothes and his ear is pierced, and Vanny was just like, oh my god, that's Jungkook. Sorry, I just literally opened it to the panel that she was talking about. Maybe Junji Ito is a fan of BTS. Army confirmed. We love to see that. I wonder who his bias would be. I'm guessing it would be either Suga or Jin, just because, you know, worldwide handsome. Anyways, sorry, I went off on a tangent, but I really enjoyed Lovesickness. The only thing that kind of left a sour taste on my mouth, a bad taste on my mouth. I wasn't necessarily disgusted, but I was kind of like, what's the point of this? I feel like Junji Ito or his editors sort of added this story because they wanted to hit the 400-page mark, and they were like, okay, give us a 4-page story and we'll just add it at the end. It kind of feels like that's what they did for this story that's called Memories of Real Poop. It's literally 3 pages long, and it did absolutely nothing for me. It was boring. It wasn't even like, ew. It was just like, what are you doing? So apart from that final poop story, I really enjoyed my time reading this. I would take 5 poop stories from Junji Ito over this next book. I feel like this book was just not it. This is a classic, and I know it's some people's favorite. I don't understand how or why. Like, what exactly do you like about this book? There's literally, like, nothing goes on. Mansfield Park by Jane Austen, allegedly written by Jane Austen. I'm still not sure this is a Jane Austen novel because it just feels so different from everything that she's done before. I haven't read all of her works, but I have read quite a few. I think I've read 4 in total. Don't quote me on that. Maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. Anyways, Mansfield Park is not a Jane Austen novel. I feel like this is a parody of what Jane Austen would have done. I feel like this book is the reason that classics get such a bad reputation. Like, the people that think that classics are boring and slow and nothing really happens, it's probably because of this book, because this book is literally that. Nothing happens, it's boring, I didn't really learn anything from it, and there's just like no other word to describe this book except boring, and I've already wasted enough time reading this book. It is so floppy though, like, oh my god, come on. I've never seen such a floppy paperback. Maybe I have. I won't give this book that much credit. But yeah, she's not welcome here, so you won't be seeing her again. Okay, this next book was definitely a palate cleanser because after Mansfield Park, I was like, okay, should I just become illiterate? I don't want to read ever again. But then I picked up Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Kadono, and I just loved it. One of my favorite Studio Ghibli films is based off of this book, obviously Kiki's Delivery Service. We're following our friendly neighborhood witch and her little cat Gigi as she's just running errands for everybody. And in this book, we actually explore more quests than in the movie. Like in the movie, I feel like we maybe see 3 to 4 missions that Kiki goes on, but in this one, there's definitely a lot more, and it was just so fun to read this book. Like the whole time I just had a smile on my face, and it was just a very heartwarming reading experience. If you're going to pick up Kiki's Delivery Service, definitely put on the movie soundtrack as you're listening to this, because I feel like I ascended as I was reading and listening to the movie soundtrack because it was just another level of nirvana, and I loved every second that I read this. Next up, we have a poetry collection, and that is The Essential Rumi. This was translated by Coleman Barks. I did get a comment recently that mentions that this isn't really the best translation to read of Rumi's poetry because sometimes apparently the translator takes a few liberties with the poems, and sometimes he translates things that don't even make sense. So that was kind of sad to hear. Before I got that comment, I finished reading The Essential Rumi, and I actually really enjoyed it. Like with every poetry collection, there were some poems that I really connected to and that sort of felt like my whole brain chemistry was being rewired. And then there were other poems that left my head feeling empty, kind of like no thoughts, head empty. It was a really interesting collection, and when I found those poems that I really connected with, I feel like they really do pack a punch. I also had the honor of reading this with one of my closest friends, and I think my favorite part was just sending poems back and forth to each other and like analyzing them and sort of trying to understand what Rumi was trying to say. And I feel like that really enriched the reading experience. I feel like there are some poems that if it weren't for my friend, I would have just flipped by and I wouldn't have understood how important they are. In the middle of reading Rumi, I also picked up Rilke, and after reading Rilke, I saw so many instances where Rumi spoke of things that reminded me of Rilke. So I found those moments to be like so mind-blowing because I was like, these two men that lived such separate lives, they lived in different centuries, they still spoke about the same things and they felt and thought similarly, and I feel like that just blew my mind and I loved it. If you remember the snippet that I read from Rilke, try and relate it to what I'm going to read now from Rumi. This is a poem that's called The Guest House, and it says, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Sorry, that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say because I feel like I can't speak after reading such a beautiful poem. This next book is my other 5-star read of the month, and just looking at it, it makes me so happy and it makes my heart so full. This next book is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Look at her. Look at her. I love being right. If you saw my 5-star book predictions, then you know that this is one of my books that I predicted that was going to be a 5-star. I just knew that I was going to love this. I really hoped it was going to be a 5-star, but honestly, if I could, I would give this 10 out of 5 stars. I think this is my favorite Emily Henry book out of the 3 that she has out currently. I've read Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and both of them have been 5 stars. But if I could, this is just like, this one takes the cake. Yeah, you cannot change my mind about this. This is just, exactly. When Taylor Jenkins Reid said that this is a rom-com lover's dream of a book, she was not wrong. I'm like a rom-com connoisseur, so I can say without a doubt, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is a rom-com lover's dream. I need my Charlie. Charlie is the love interest. Hi, this is Charlie. This is Nora. Nora is an agent and Charlie is an editor, and you know, things happen and suddenly they have to work together on this new book. And yeah, if you want to know more, I guess you're gonna have to pick up Book Lovers. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. So please pick this up. That's the homework of the day. Pick up Book Lovers, come back to me. Only if it's a 5-star read. Next up, we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold, written by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I really hope I'm saying that right. In this book, there is this cafe that offers you the ability to travel through time. This story is told through 4 short stories that follows different characters, but they're all connected through this cafe. And I don't really want to talk about the stories themselves because if you want to pick up this book after you hear my thoughts and my reactions, I really want you to go into this book without knowing much because I feel like it's going to be that much more impactful if you go into it knowing absolutely nothing. I feel like the way that this author writes about emotions and the way that he sets the stage for these stories to unfold, it's just really magical. It's really heartbreaking at times, and the writing also helps you put yourself in the shoes of these characters so their pain is your pain, and it feels so realistic. But also, I do have to say that it is very slow paced, and for such a short book to be so slow paced, you know, it kind of took away a little bit from my appreciation and from my enjoyment of this book. So I did give this a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I did rate each story individually. The average of my ratings was a 3.75, so it just felt right. You know what I mean? The last book that I read in May was actually a total surprise. I read it in like the last few hours of May, like May 31st. And I wasn't really planning on reading this on May, but I picked it up on one of my Patreon reading sprints, and the story and the writing and the pacing was so good that I honestly could not put it down. And that is No Longer Human by Junji Ito. This is a 600-page beauty. I think we should take off the cover just because I think you should appreciate it as much as I do. This is how it looks in the front, and this is the back. I mean, yeah, it gives you a really good idea of how the book is going to, it really sets the mood for how the book is going to be. Honestly, I was so horrified is not the word, but it comes close to that. I was very disturbed by some of these panels. It's not your usual Junji Ito novel just because the story itself is not originally from Junji Ito. The original novel, No Longer Human, written by Osamu Dazai, it's actually the 2nd best-selling novel in Japan. There were some bits of the story that felt real. It kind of feels like reality was bending, but there were definitely some aspects that felt like they were true. So after I finished reading No Longer Human, I did some investigation, I did some sleuthing, and I actually found out that this is a very autobiographical story, which is disturbing to say the least. because apparently the author of No Longer Human, he suffered a lot through his life. And through No Longer Human, he tells the story of this self-destructive man whose biggest fear is human beings. Like, he's never been able to relate to them. He's never been able to understand them. And his life is just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. So this story explores the depths of psychological and philosophical horror and how that can affect a person's life and the people that surround him. After I found out just how autobiographical this was, the story became even that more disturbing and that more horrifying, because to think that even half, like even 1/4 of the things that happen in this book are based on true events is just mind-boggling. I don't understand that, and it's honestly very depressing. It's very sad to think that the author of No Longer Human lived such a life. But I think that Junji Ito does a really good job at honoring the work, like the original work, and also adding, you know, a little bit of Ito-ness into the story. Like the way that some of the panels are drawn are so disturbing. I'm sorry, like there is no other word right now in my mind except disturbing. It was a lot. This story was a lot. I don't understand how I read this in one sitting, but I did, and I gave this 4 out of 5 stars because it was horrifically beautiful. I wouldn't call it beautiful. It was horrifically horrifying. It was horrifically terrifying. It was next level espa. No Longer Human by Junji Ito. Wow. These are all the books that I read in the month of May. Let me know which ones you guys are interested in picking up for yourselves, which ones you're definitely going to be avoiding. Hint, hint, Mansfield Park by allegedly Jane Austen. And I honestly feel like I had a really good reading month, especially because for most of it, I was in a reading slump. I mean, I still am. Don't get me wrong, I'm still in a reading slump, but I feel like I still managed to read quite a lot of good books. Let me know how you guys did in the month of May. Did you find any new favorites? Did you find any books that you would definitely not recommend to anyone? Let me know in the comments below. If you're still here, yes, I'm bringing the emoji game back. If you're still here, leave this emoji in the comments so that I know that you're a fellow simper, you're the cream of the crop, the best of the best. Let me know. Let me know. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Hey Jimmy, you nice. Keep going.